Welcome to this channel. Here we are going to talk about the stories of our Holy Bible. And today's story will be about Gideon as judge, so let's go. The people of Israel sinned against God, the Lord, and so he let the people of Midian dominate them for 7 years. The Israelites hid from the Midianites in caves and other safe places in the mountains because the Midianites were stronger than they were. Every time the Israelites sowed, the Midianites would come with the Amalekites and the peoples of the desert and attack them. They camped in the land and destroyed their crops as far south as Gaza. They left nothing for the Israelites to live on, not even a sheep, cow, or donkey. They arrived with their cattle and their tents and were as numerous as locusts. There were so many of them and their camels that they could not even be counted. They came to destroy the land, and the people of Israel could not deal with them. So the Israelites asked the Lord for help. When they prayed to the Lord about the Midianites, he sent a prophet, who said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, I brought you out of bondage in Egypt. I delivered you from the Egyptians and from those who fought against you here in this land. I drove out your enemies and gave you their land. I said that I am the Lord your God and that you should not worship the gods of the Amorites who lived in this land. But you would not listen to me." Then the angel of the Lord came and sat under an oak tree near the village of Ophrah. That oak belonged to Joash, who was of the family of Abiezer. His son Gideon was threshing wheat in the treading tank, hidden so that the Midianites would not find him. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "You are brave, and the Lord is with you." Gideon replied, "If the Lord God is with our people, why is all this happening to us? Where are those wonderful things our ancestors told us the Lord used to do when he brought us out of Egypt? He abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites." Then the Lord God commanded Gideon, "Go with all your might and free the people of Israel from the Midianites. I'm the one who's ordering you to go." Gideon replied, "Lord, how can I deliver Israel? My family is the poorest of the tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least important person in my family." But the Lord said, "You can do this because I will help you. You will crush all the Midianites as if they were one man." Gideon replied, "If you are happy with me, then give me proof that you are the one speaking. And please don't leave until I bring you an offering." "I'll stay here until you get back," said God. So Gideon went in, boiled a young goat, and made unleavened bread with about 10 kilos of flour. He put the food in a basket and put the broth in a pot. He took it all and gave it to the angel of the Lord, who was under the oak tree. Then the angel ordered, "Put the meat and bread on this stone and pour the broth over it." Gideon did as he was told. Then the angel stretched out the stick he had in his hand and touched the meat and the bread with its tip. Then fire came out of the stone and burned the meat and the bread. And the angel disappeared. Then Gideon understood that it was really the angel of the Lord that he had seen. And he said, terrified, "Woe is me, Lord my God! I saw the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord replied, "Do not be afraid. Everything is good. You will not die." Gideon built an altar there to God the Lord and called it, "The Lord is Peace." And to this day this altar is in Ophrah, a city belonging to the families of Abiezer. That night the Lord said to Gideon, "Take your father's bull and another 7-year-old bull and pull down your father's altar to the god Baal and the pole of the goddess Asherah that is beside it. In that high and secure place, make an altar to the Lord your God of well-placed stones. Then take the second bull and the wood from the Asherah pole uprooted and burn them on the altar as a sacrifice." Gideon took 10 of his servants and did what the Lord said. However, as he was afraid of his family and the people of the city, instead of doing it during the day, he did it at night. At dawn, when the men of the city got up, they found the altar of Baal and the pole of the goddess Asherah overturned and the second bull burned on the altar that had been built there. And they asked, "I wonder who did this?" They sought to find out and found out that it was Gideon, son of Joash. Then they said to Joash, Bring your son here to be killed because he knocked down the altar of Baal and the pole of the goddess Asherah." But Joash said to all who were gathered there against him, "Are you defending Baal? Whoever defends him will be killed before dawn. If Baal is God, let him defend himself." His altar was torn down. From that day forward Gideon was called Jerubbaal, for Joash had said, "Let Baal himself defend himself." His altar was torn down. Then all the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the people of the desert gathered together, and crossed the Jordan River, and encamped in the Jezreel valley. And the Spirit of the Lord overpowered Gideon. He blew a horn made of a ram's horn, and the men of the Abiezer clan joined him. Gideon also sent messengers to call the men from the tribes of Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. And they also went to join him. Then Gideon said, "O God, you said that you want to use me to free the people of Israel. Well then, I'm going to put some wool where we threshed the wheat. If in the morning the dew has wet only the wool, and the ground around it is dry, then I can be sure that you will really use me to deliver Israel." What he said happened. The next morning Gideon got up, squeezed the wool, and water came out of it enough to fill a bowl. So he asked God, "Don't be angry with me. But let me say just one more time. Please let me do one more test with the wool. May this time the fleece be dry, and may there be dew only on the ground around it." And God did it that night. The wool became dry, and the ground around it was covered with dew. Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, and all the men who were with him got up early in the morning and camped by the spring of Harod. The Midianites' camp was in the valley on the north side, near Mount Mor. The Lord God said to Gideon, "You have too many people, so I can't let you defeat the Midianites. If I let you, you might think you won without my help. Announce to the people this: whoever is afraid, let him leave Mount Gilboa and go home." Gideon announced, and 22,000 men returned. But 10,000 stayed. And the Lord said to Gideon, "It's still too many people. Take them all to the waters, and there I will separate those who will go with you. If I say a man must go with you, he will. If you say another shouldn't go, he won't go." Then Gideon led the men down to the water. And the Lord God said to him, "All men who lap water with their tongues, as dogs do, must be separated from those who kneel to drink." 300 men gathered water in their hands and licked. All the others knelt down to drink. Then the Lord said to Gideon, "With these 300 men who lapped the water, I will free you and give you victory over the Midianites. Tell the others to go home." So Gideon sent all the other Israelites home except those 300. But these kept all the food and all the trumpets. The Midianite camp was below them in the valley. That night the Lord God said to Gideon, "Rise and attack the Midianite camp. I already gave you victory. But if you're afraid to attack, go down to their camp. Take Purah, your helper, with you. You will listen to what they are saying and then you will have the courage to attack the camp." Gideon and Purah went down very close to the enemy camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and the people of the desert were scattered in the valley like a swarm of locusts. They and their camels were as many as the grains of sand on the seashore. When Gideon arrived, he overheard a man telling his friend his dream. He said, "I dreamed that a barley loaf rolled into our camp. Came and hit a stall. She fell, turned inside out and lay on the floor." The friend replied, "It is the sword of Gideon the Israelite, the son of Joash. This means that God handed over our people and our entire army to him." When Gideon heard this dream and understood what it meant, he fell on his knees and worshipped God. He then returned to the Israelite camp and said, "Get up. The Lord God has given the Midianite army into your hands." Gideon separated the 300 into 3 groups and gave each man a ram's horn and a pitcher with a torch in it. And he says, "Look at me. And when I get close to the enemy camp, do as I do. When I and my group blow the trumpets, then you who will be surrounding the camp, blow the trumpets and shout, for the Lord and for Gideon. A little before midnight, just before the changing of the guard, Gideon and his 100 men arrived very close to the camp. Then they blew the trumpets and broke the jars they carried. The three groups blew the horns and broke the pitchers. They held the torch in their left hand and the horn in their right and shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." And each one stood in his place around the camp. Then the entire enemy army fled, screaming. As the 300 men blew the trumpets, the Lord God caused the men of the camp to attack each other with their swords. They fled towards Zererah and went to Bethsheba and as far as the border of Abel-Meholah, near Tabit. Then men from the tribes of Naphtali, Asher, and the two halves of the tribe of Manasseh were called and pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers to tell all who lived in the hill country of Ephraim, "Go down and fight the Midianites. Defend the Jordan River and its streams as far as Bethbarah and do not let the Midianites cross." So the men of Ephraim went and defended the Jordan River and its streams as far as Bethbarah. They arrested Oreb and Zeb, the two Midianite chiefs. They killed Oreb on the Oreb rock, and they killed Zeb in his treading vat. They continued to pursue the Midianites and took the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was east of the Jordan River. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave your like.